Welcome and welcome again to another Monday night discussion with Moun Sewye. Tonight we are live on Facebook, live on YouTube. So we'd like you to share the live both on Facebook and through YouTube. Because we know there are people who, not in Zuckerberg world, they want to be in the Google world. So we're respecting that and we're trying to have a broader reach with the message. So good night to everybody.
Yeah, good night, everybody. Welcome to another Monday night discussion. We want to give a shout out to our boy Chubby, for helping to facilitate our broadcast, on both YouTube and Facebook. Yeah, big up Chubby.
Yeah, it wasn't without it technical
Yeah,
difficulties, yeah, but
yeah,
to be under pressure.
yeah. But we're moving from strength to strength and hoping to come back with a stronger message, a more potent message, and we continue to discuss all of the relevant issues and the solutions applicable to them. So once again, welcome and share the live, get everybody else in on the discussion.
Yeah, Monday. So let's just jump right into the things that are important to and relevant of the day. So while on the street, talking, having discussions with people, the situation with the opposition leader came up where Desmond Paul resigned and the guy Marigot was to take over on the deal that they were to honor from election that she took 2 years, 2.5 years, and he would take the remaining 2.5 years as opposition leader. But it wasn't that took center stage. Rather, to me, what took particular center stage was the comments of the president of Dominica. I forget her name. What's her name again? Excuse me? Sylvia Burton.
Silvani Button.
Excuse
Silvani Button.
Sylvani Burton. I haven't taken not to know what is the president, but Mrs. Burton. Mrs. Burton said that Mr. Charles didn't command the majority, so she wasn't sure exactly how things was going to transpire. And this is the first example of the president inserting herself into politics in Dominica without clearly understanding the rules of engagement. So there are two people in the parliament who are in opposition. They have a deal in place, and therefore if one resigns and the other one nominates, and the resigning one supports the one who nominates, isn't that a clear majority within the two of them for the president to say that he does not command the majority? I find it's ignorant. And what it further brings to attention is what kind of legal advice is the president getting for to make such a idiot, such a stupid
Well,
statement publicly?
I doubt that the president, acted, you know, with on her own. I mean, she must have, like you said, gotten advice or gotten some kind of consultation from somewhere. Some would wonder whether it would be even a consultation, but to me, that discussion just highlights the need for continued conversations on the different aspects of the constitution, because we are having this discussion here, and I doubt there are many people who are equipped with that factual knowledge, for us to be able to debate out of the realm of emotions, you know. Because like Buju, like you like to say, you know, the letter of the law, the rule of law, the law prescribes certain processes that need to be adhered to. And whenever we stray from those things, then we find ourselves in difficulty. So even at to me, even at the onset, prior to making such a decision, I would have solicited the ear of the president and both the both Jesmer, Paul, and Mr. Tony, what's his name?
Tony Charles.
Tony Charles. Could have sought an audience with the president to before they made any took any action. Because like you say, Buju, in my opinion, it's black and white. If there are two people, two elected opposition members, and one bows in order to nominate the other, then I don't see the difficulty in interpreting that, you know, as
A majority.
you know, as a majority. But again, to dive into a conversation like that without having like, you know, having looked at the whole thing objectively and not allow our emotions to get into the, you know, it going to be a mud fest, and that's what it basically is. People trying to make political mileage, and you in situations like that, you don't even know what it's true. It's easy to put out misinformation and misguide people, and you see a lot of that happening. So what I believe we have always done, which we continue to do, is to impress upon the people the need to understand, to know their constitution, and to be empowered by it.
Well, yes, because it's important, and again, we have to press on the fact that knowledge of our constitution is very important to decipher some of the situations that Dominica finding themselves into, including the current president and the situation of her interpretation of the law. She says he does not have a clear majority. There are two people in opposition. The two people have a deal in place. Obviously, if two people supporting one, then if two people in support, then that's the majority. Charles and Desma makes the majority. That's
Logic.
that's simple logic. But it goes on to show something deeper, that we as a people, we lack so much information and so much understanding of our constitution. We mamaga in our own self. We confuse in our own self, because widespread knowledge and discussion of the contents of the constitution just not happening within the society. We have high school students not discussing the constitution. We have college students not discussing the constitution. You have lawyers not discussing the constitution. You have police being trained who are not in depth with the constitution. You have politicians who have zero confidence in what is expressed legally in the Constitution of Dominica. And this is something that has to change, because we will need constitutional reform. And it wouldn't be what Buju wants, because Buju understands the Constitution. It's supposed to be what we the people want, because we the people understand what are in the Constitution. But if we do not understand the Constitution, and politicians talking about reforming the Constitution, it's not to suit the favor of the people. It will always be to suit the favor of the power that want to stay in power. And we have to understand that. Because the other day I was thinking about it. I don't want to be a politician. Because if you have to break down the use of politician, in sports, you have to have tactics. Politics. And to be a policy maker, there's a clear difference in what your objective is. and what you set out to do and your goal. Making policy for the betterment of the people and not
But-
polytacking them into a corner for your benefit.
But without I tripping you, Bojo, I want, you see, as you mentioned in that, I want to bring us back, and which even going to strengthen our point further. We were having a discussion earlier where we were talking about the constitutional review, okay? And at the time the review was completed, who was the person who came into stewardship? Was Alec Lawrence.
Stewardship.
Yes. Basically, they came in charge of the electoral reform and so, well, the constitutional reform. And
No, that's not correct. He wasn't in charge. It's not like he came in charge. He came in at the end of the process to
Okay.
help complete the
Okay,
process.
right,
He was
right.
part of
Thank
the
you.
process.
thank you, correct
He
it.
was part of the process.
So that I wanted to establish, right? Now, basically, what we were saying was that that review would have been the completion of a body of work where these minds would have gone through the Constitution and look at everywhere that it would have a loophole where we would be challenged, where our hands would be tied to act, where, you know, we would have challenges with our country then. And basically, rather than implement those reforms, to hold back on it and to use it now to their advantage. You understand? So while we are in the dark about our own constitution, we have people who understand the constitution so well that they even know all the holes, all the flaws, and by virtue of them having that review, they know all what that need to be done to fix the problems. But rather than do that, they abuse the shortcomings and keep us in the dark. So it is imperative that we educate ourselves about the Constitution for us to counteract that abuse. You know, I mean, when we talk about the right to life, what is life without expression? What is life without the freedom to move? What is life without the freedom to freely assemble with other people? So just by having life, just by virtue of having life, you have so much that comes with that life that you have a right to. But it cannot just exist on paper. You have to take it and give it life. You know, you have to become an embodiment of what is written on that paper. So with that, I go into
Well, a country is run by its people, and my parents, our parents, they were ignorant of the Constitution. Luckily, a handful of us got to the understanding and the knowledge of the Constitution. And our chief reasoning and motive is to distribute the knowledge of the Constitution, because that's the only way the country can grow. When we, the people, understand our rule and our Constitution. So you talk about the constitutional review, right, Franco? And yes, the Constitution needs reviewing because we need a separation of powers, because as is, the powers not completely separate, and the executive government wields too much influence and power over the society, and that is something that has to be separated properly. But like I was saying, the people have to get the understanding of what is there already, so they can understand when the discussion for changing aspects of the Constitution comes about, the people will have an understanding
Yes.
as to why that change is
Yes,
necessary.
Mojo, it is.
The
Boy,
problem,
that's
the
so
existing
important.
situation
Yes,
creating.
yes, yes.
So the proposed change and the benefit of the proposed change. For example, in general, in the English, wherever England was, there is this thing called a snap election, where the prime minister of most Commonwealth nation have the power to call the election on snap without any other persons being prepared for the situation. This is a constitutional amendment that was proposed, that we fix our date, that everybody is allowed a chance to know when election is coming, so everybody can prepare appropriately, just like the United States of America. It has its benefits. There is no benefit in a snap election for the general public.
Yeah. Only political tactic.
There is only benefit for the incumbent. There is no benefit for the opposition. There is no benefit for the civil society associations. It only benefits the ruling party. And if we want a fair and equitable society, this is a constitutional amendment that has to be put on the table, not just discussed as a matter of electoral reform, but people have to understand why we need to change aspects of the Constitution,
I want to ask you two questions, Mojo.
or even why we need to fulfill the Constitution. For example, again, for 44 years, we have not had the office of the Ombudsman, and that is something, office enacted
Yes.
by the Constitution.
Yep.
And that office is to take complaints and investigate matters within the government before the police.
Yeah.
So we have, as a people, to put pressure on our government, our school system, to teach the next generation of Dominicans to be Dominicans through the Constitution of Dominican. I pledge allegiance to what?
Yeah.
To what I pledge in the allegiance
Yeah.
to.
So let me ask you, Mojo, two questions, because we talk about constitutional review
Yes.
and constitutional amendment. Now these terms coming up in discussion every time, but the average man, like we say, he may not even understand what we're talking about. But the two questions I want to ask is, would we even be talking about constitutional amendment if we wasn't facing this present administration? And question two, being faced with the situation as it is, do we trust that administration to handle the constitutional review to make the kind of changes that we would want? Do we trust that government to handle? We don't even trust them to handle electoral reform. We see what they've done with that whole electoral reform thing. So those are the two questions. If we did not have this dilemma created, because sometimes we tend to blame, and say,
Well, Franco, to answer your
hold
first-
on. We tend to blame the actor, but we don't see our own culpability. We don't see our own complicity. So what I'm saying is that maybe this man existing right now is a necessary evil that has awakened us to those questions. That right now we must arm ourselves, we must inform ourselves, we must go and understand what those things are, so that we can be involved in the discussion.
Well, Franco, for me personally, with that first question you asked, if we wasn't in this situation with the present government, would we be on the journey, would we have been on a journey to review the Constitution and actually have the political will to implement some of the changes?
And to educate ourselves about it too.
Well, in the year 1999 into 2000, the United Workers' Party under Edison James did conduct a constitutional review. But that review, when it came out, I don't want to say it was shelved. I don't want to use that term shelf, because I can speak from my perspective viewing that time. At that time in 1999, when that came out, election call, workers lose. Labour Party take over.
Came out before that.
It came out slightly before that, but
No.
how long before that did it come out?
I get a copy of that before I go to Cuba.
What year did it come out?
So I went to Cuba in 98.
Hmm?
I went to Cuba in 98 and I had a copy from Dr. Gray.
Yes, it was out.
So it was out already even in 98.
Yes, 98. 98, 97. Let's just say it was out 97 into 98. By 1999, the United Workers' Party was out of office, but it did not implement the constitutional review. So, as a people, if the government is the people, we as a people had already embarked on a journey of constitutional review in an attempt, and I say in an attempt because we don't know what would have happened if the government had stayed in power. In an attempt. So the work was done, people were paid, an extensive review was done, including Alec Lawrence. So I would say we despite where we are, there would have been significant, or there would have been changes done to the Constitution without being in that situation. Second question, the trustworthiness of our government at the present moment is very low. So I personally, as a citizen, wouldn't trust the government to implement fair constitutional reform where it's going to benefit everybody in the society. We're talking about a government that has extensively trampled the Constitution. A government that has used discriminatory practices, which is a contradiction to the Constitution. For example, when the Prime Minister is on the radio saying he will hire a red over anybody else, that is openly practicing discrimination.
Wow. You say a few things and I've been listening for a while. Good night, good evening to everyone. And yes, but for, like you say, the government, the cabinet, and then you have the judiciary separate. So the judiciary, which supposedly is independent, we hear nothing from the judiciary. So, like in a situation like even the president and the whole members of parliament issue, which is in terms of interpretation of the law issue, because what does it mean to come under majority, right? What does it mean for you to say on a public platform that you would hire, employ somebody that's supporting Labour Party over somebody that's supporting Red UWP when you are the Prime Minister, sitting Prime Minister of a nation? And yes, Constitution speaks, but we have an institution that's supposed to be defending the Constitution, and that is the judiciary. Yes. The judiciary is supposed to be defending the Constitution as the fourth branch of government, and we are nothing from these people. They gain our money in taxes, they go around quietly, and it's like they're not part of the society. I mean, what? We have to demand that these people make their opinions, and they're not just their opinion, but their legal interpretations of the laws be known publicly, because that is what you've been paid for. As a judge, is not just to come in the court, but you also have a social responsibility to the country. The same way we as citizens, we have a responsibility to each other. The judiciary also has a responsibility to the state, And if the state is getting it wrong, or there's some type of, how should I put it, ambiguity in the law, then the judiciary is the one that supposedly should step in and clarify the situation. But we hear nothing. It's like all now, so we have a chief judge. I think he's from St. Vincent, Mr. Colin Williams. These people are supposed to speak. You have how much other magistrate? I think you have a chief magistrate, Candia Carrot Judge. You hear nothing from these people.
To be fair, yeah.
Pearl.
No,
Yeah.
hold on, Pyro. You see why I believe these people have an inability to do their work properly, and that is one of the same inability that affecting the police as well, because these people believe that their job, being hired by the government, means that their job somehow is political,
Now see
and
that
that
for
cannot be further from the truth. Yes, you are hired from by government, but your job is not a political job.
but even with that, because a lot of times I hear people say, oh, the government side and the to me, my interpretation of what I've read as Westminster system, government is parliament, cabinet, and judiciary. Three branches of government. All the members of those branches form the government. So as long as you're a member of parliament, whether you're in opposition, whether you're in the majority side, you're supposed to be considered part of the government, you know. And it's like those interpretations is the things that allow this violations. Because a man go feel like, yeah, Mida is the government, Mida is the state, Mida is just like our Labour Party have that assimilation to Mida is the state, Mida is the government. Right? And it has been something that has allowed to go on. And we hear nothing, no correction from the judiciary. You check. So the interpretation now would be left to common folks like ourselves.
No, you have to have, and I had that example, Pyro, because I went to legal affairs, not to ask for advice, because there's a clear difference between advice and clarity. Advice is asking you what to do, clarity is asking you if it have a law, what the law saying about this. The person in legal affairs is basically telling me, go and ask a private lawyer that question. So I'm acting like, yo, you sending me to pay money to ask a question that you supposed to answer me freely. Is there a law governing marijuana? What are the laws governing marijuana? Blah, 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 blah. You cannot tell me, go and ask a private lawyer that question. It is your job as a state attorney to inform me of what the laws of the state is. Because when you go in front of the magistrate, ignorance of the law is no excuse. But you helping keep me in ignorance.
Oh, and you have to add to what you're saying, right? The Constitution, I think is. But anyway, the Constitution, I can't remember the exact section, but the Constitution tells you that the court supposed to. Okay, first of all, before I even go that, the Constitution tells you that you have a right to self-representation, right? And in your quest to self-representation, the court has to facilitate your preparation for any case, you know. It's written in the Constitution. You check. So now when you go to these people and they give you this, because I told this magistrate, Kanda Carrot judge that to her face in the court, that you go to all the different institutions and people give you this run around, hiding information and playing. The library to the court is non-functional because it got some issues.
There's a fungus infestation in the library.
Right. So there is not even a facility that the court can provide to you. So right there, they're already violating your rights as your constitutional rights, right? When they're supposed to provide a facility for you to be able to prepare to come to court. And it's like these things just go under the carpet like it doesn't matter, man. And people's rights get violated. And I told it to Kanda Carrot judge in the court. And she told me she knows that the system is broken and she doesn't care about it. But this is a magistrate that sends people to jail, to prison, to save long sentences and all kind of sentences. You check? So you disrupting, destroying people's lives on a system you know that is broken. Right? And to you care nothing about it. You check? But It's like we say, how we further in our democracy. So the activity is supposed to be able to further our democracy. So here it is, we have all these issues and all this ambiguity with the constitution and the application of the constitution actually. And the judiciary is just silent. You check. So to me the judiciary is supposed to come out and speak.
So that means, so what I understand in Pyro, so instead they use some of the laws or the rules and regulation now to guide the people using it to punish the people instead then.
That is what it is.
Huh?
That is what it is.
That's what I understand in there.
But that is what it is. It's a
Instead
whole
they use
system, you know,
instead they use the laws and the rules and the regulations to guide the people so you do go the wrong way. It's like they prepare you to go the wrong way
Yes.
to use that, so it's a money making scheme.
I don't even
It's
know
an
that
extortion.
that's a
Yeah,
money
well,
making
yeah,
scheme.
well.
So
It's a scheme to basically try and force people to you don't even have to challenge, you cannot challenge this at a school then. So
Yeah.
they telling you cannot challenge this at a
Just
school.
change your mind about that.
Yeah. So basically it's just a scheme for keeping people in line.
so
To
it's
maintain the status
basically is economic bondage.
Mental bondage.
You know,
Well, yeah,
and
mental
if
bondage.
if I look at, because everything lining up, you know, the lack of judicial equity, you know, the fact that our because of our economic circumstance, our constitutional protections are null, you know, because of our economic predisposition. Now you have sometimes conversations going on where the government will clearly tell you, you know, that how they have failed, you know, they fail for example, to grow the income tax base, and right now is like, you know, we have an over dependence on VAT, and we have, because of that, because of the lack of avenues to generate revenue to you know, to stimulate the economy, then you have these extortive taxation practices. For example, you have the vehicle act. What's the yeah, the traffic act, where you hear in man they saying, you know, a man not supposed to a man no man supposed to be owing 5 years and 5 years license. That is ridiculous, because the law clearly states that after 2 years, whatever your number is supposed to be struck off from the register. So I don't understand how a person can go all 5 years owing the states for licensing. It's just like, you know, the remand situation. Remand was never meant to be used punitively. You use remand to hold a person, you know, keep a person detained for you to carry out your investigations. But in the absence of that, in the absence of your ability to complete an investigation and get a conviction, you just feel, well, you figure, Mr. You know, it's Mr. that do that, so let Mr. stay up there. You check. That is, yes, incompetence and abuse of the man rights, abuse of the process. Okay, so when you have a situation where a lawyer will basically tell you that your constitutional protections, that's your right to life, your right to freedom, all of these are protected by how deep your pocket is, then you telling me that basically I don't have no rights unless I don't have money. No, things like that is what the constitutional review was aimed at addressing, because in the constitutional review, matters of a constitutional nature, when they arise, the financial cost was to be taken up by the state. So all of these constitutional cases that are in the court there, right? Because listen, whenever a constitutional case goes to the high court to be determined, the outcome of that case not just benefiting one person, you know, that benefiting the entire society. You understand? So constitutional cases are a mechanism, a necessary mechanism for the continued involvement of our judiciary. Okay? Because you cannot tell me, by virtue of my right to life, I have freedom of movement. Yet you have a police force working on behalf of the government that will stop me arbitrarily on Wednesday on Independence Street, right? They will allow certain people to pass, but not me. Now, when I ask you, as a agent of the state, acting on the state behalf, when I ask you, by what criteria are you stopping me from passing? Is it because I black? How are you profiling me? You know? No. If I want to determine that, if I have to take up that challenge, I have to take my money and go to the court and pay my money now for the court to tell that police officer, hey, you cannot discriminate against the man. If you let in one pass, you have to let all pass. You understand? You cannot be openly discriminating against people based on their political ideology. Right now, it's not even about political party, because I see people that are not affiliated to no party, and because they express their how they feel about maybe certain things the government might be doing, they refuse them access to pass. So we have to evolve as a society, and the court. The court is always.
So Flacco, sorry for cutting you short there, but
Yeah.
just for a clarification as to how we can move forward on changing that system, as in terms of a man that considers himself poor and he have a matter where he can take to court, way for him not to feel fear that he could go to court, in which way that we could change that matter.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. It's either we go the route of the constitutional challenge, go to the High Court, raise the money by whatever means, and just like the gay people went to court and get the Buggery law turned over because it was unconstitutional, use that same path to get the court to instruct the police that what they are doing is unconstitutional. I think that is better use of any money than to, because
Yeah, but
those are the
no,
things
but
that
you
usher
say
change.
If you have to go to court, if you have to go to the court to get the police to stop that,
Yeah,
you must use your money.
yeah.
But if you don't have money now to go to the court to deal with a matter like that,
Well, then we
how
have
you
to
go
get,
go about doing that?
we have to push to get the constitutional review. We have to get the constitution amended. But like I was asking Buju earlier, do we trust the government that is there to put those things in place? Because when you put something like that in place, and a man go to the High Court and the court determine that for stopping these people from going up Kennedy Avenue for 2 years, we going to award each of these people $500,000. Would they do that?
Flacco, let me tell you that.
They would not wound themselves.
You ask that
So I don't
question-
trust that government
You asked that
to give us the
question
kind of
twice.
reforms
you asked
that
question twice
that we
about
need.
But if we will trust the government to do that, right? But we all know what the present government is. So asking if we would trust them, to me, that don't make no sense, because we know what it is already.
Yeah, we know
So
what
that
it
is why I'm telling you now, it's not about trusting that government no more. It's about moving forward to bring that difference to the public.
Yes. So to move that forward now is continued education. Now let me, that leading me to my whole next set of, because
Asking if people don't trust them, and
so then you're already saying that we don't have an environment that contributes to a whole healthy and thriving city. Most Dominicans do not pay income tax. We have to be able to be financially literate and intelligent enough to understand that he is saying that majority of us do not make $30,000 a year. And because our rights are guaranteed by how much money we have, that is saying that majority of Dominicans cannot secure their own rights. This is what Levi Peters is saying to us with those twisted words. Okay? Because the only people who can guarantee their rights in Dominica are those who making over $30,000 a year, and some of them still cannot guarantee their rights. The other day I tell a partner down the road, these basically what this man is saying, that he can kick you and give you $30,000 and you wouldn't take him to court. You'll take the $30,000 and go and enjoy it. And he laugh and he say he would take the kick. Now, is that a dignified response? No man should want to take a kick for no more amount of money. You understand? So
If that man,
when
if that man see his life,
yeah.
first time he ever seen $40,000.
Well, you see, that is what we have to change, because you're not talking about 30,000 US, you know, you're talking about 30,000 EC, you know, my brother. You check. So when you talk about the financial literacy, you couple that with your constitutional awareness, the fact that I have rights, and you see that is why you have to understand the Constitution, because conversations will be going on around you, and you will not have no basis of what being spoken about. People will be cutting up your future in front of you, and you will not know what the conversation is about, because you don't understand what they're talking about. You don't understand the conversation. You know, just look at how much debacle the whole thing of residency causing in Dominica. You check residency and look at the amount of mud. You know, so when you have the financial literacy, constitutional awareness, now you have to have emotional intelligence and emotional awareness. Okay, because we have a lot of people. The system broken, and a broken system will break people. It will break old people. It will break middle-aged people. It will break young people. It will break children. So when you have these broken people raising up the ranks, some of them by any means, and they get into that place of authority or that place of power, no matter how they look, how good they looking on the outside, these people are wounded on the inside. Some of them have trauma that they have not even addressed. You know, and these are the people that we put into these positions, and we expect to get empathy from them. We expect for them to be able to relate to us when sometimes they have their own challenges, you know. So you have emotional intelligence and awareness. You have awareness of yourself and the collective and how they relate. There are sometimes that we have to think of ourselves, but we cannot be in a perpetual state of self-interest and thinking of ourselves, and being, because that is survival mode. When you cannot put down your self-interest and embrace other people, work with other people, we have to flip that. We have to get back into that mode of working with each other, you know. So it have things that you might see. It have things that you might see that it might be excuse me. Okay. All right, guys. So apologies. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back. So stay tuned, guys.